Welcome,
Welcome,
friends.
friends.
Another
Another
video
video
to my
to my
channel,
channel,
and
and
welcome
welcome
everybody.
everybody.
So
So
today we are
today we are
going to
going to
learn
learn
today
today
how
how
we
we
can
can
handle
handle
global
global
exceptions
exceptions
in
in
Spring Boot
Spring Boot
application,
application,
and
and
also
also
how we
how we
can
can
throw
throw
custom
custom
exceptions
exceptions
from
from
our
our
application.
application.
Uh,
Uh,
let's
let's
get
get
ahead
ahead
into
into
Spring
Spring
Initializer
Initializer
just to
just to
create
create
a
a
demo
demo
project.
project.
Going
Going
to
to
Spring
Spring
Initializer,
Initializer,
select
select
some
some
settings over
settings over
here.
here.
I'm
I'm
going to
going to
use
use
Maven for
Maven
the
for the
build.
build.
Not going to
I'm going to
change
change
Spring Boot
Spring Boot
application
application
to
to
change the
change the
group
group
demo
demo
exception
exception
handling.
handling.
At
At
project
project
name,
name,
I will
I will
give
give
Spring
Spring
Global
Global
exception
exception
handling.
handling.
We're going to
We're going to
use
use
package as
package as
jar
jar
using
using
Java
Java
17
17
to add
to
some
add some
dependencies. So
dependencies. The
first I'm
first
going
I'm going
to
to
access
access
and
and
add
add
web,
web,
uh,
uh,
DevTools,
DevTools,
and
and
Lombok.
Lombok.
I think
I
these
think these
three
three
dependencies
dependencies
will
will
suffice.
suffice.
Let's
Let's
generate the
generate the
project.
project.
Okay,
Okay,
the
the
project is
project is
generated.
generated.
Let's
Let's
open
open
it.
it.
Let's
Let's
extract
extract
here.
here.
Okay,
Okay,
it's
it's
extracted.
extracted.
Let's open
Let's
it
open it
in
in
IntelliJ.
IntelliJ.
Okay, I think
I think
IntelliJ is
IntelliJ is
open.
open.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
going
going to
to
open
open
new
new project,
project, existing
existing
project
project
over
over
here
here
from
from
downloads.
downloads.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is our
this is our
project.
project.
Let's
Let's
open it.
open it.
Trust the
Press the
project.
project.
This window
This window
only.
only.
And
And
here we
here
go.
we go.
It's
It's
already
already
building.
building. Mm,
It
this
might
might
take
take
some
some
time.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
this is
the
the Farmer
farm.xml. We
XML.
have
We have
all
all
dependencies.
dependencies.
And
And
let's try
let's
to
try to
start the
start the
project.
project.
This is
This is
the
the
application
application
file.
file. And
And we are
we are
going
going to
to start it
start
by
by
clicking on
clicking on
this
this
button.
button.
And
As
in
in the
the log, you
log,
can
we can
see
see
the
the
application is
application is
started. That
started. That
means that the
means that the
project
project
setup
setup
is
is
correct.
correct.
If you
If you
see
see
this
this
message and the
message and the
server
server
is up
is up
on
on
8080
8080
port.
port.
Okay,
Okay.
now
Now,
let
well,
me
let
turn
me
off
turn off
the
the
server for
server for
now
now
because
because
we're going
we're
to
going to
add
add
some
some
resources
resources
first
first
to
to
to the
to the
application,
application,
and then
and
we
then we
can
can
see
see
how we
how
are
we are
going
going
to
to
handle
handle
different
different
exceptions. Okay,
exceptions. Okay.
so
So
for
for
that
that,
we are
we are
going to
going to
do
do
two
two
things
things
actually.
actually.
One, we're
One,
going
we're
to
going to
create
create
a couple of
a couple of
APIs.
APIs.
APIs would
APIs would
be
be
the
the
URL would
URL
be
would be
students, student,
student,
and
and
student
student
ID.
ID.
So
So
the
the
student
student
URL is
URL
going
is
to
going
give
to give
us
us
the
the
entire
entire
list of
list of
students.
students.
We're not
We're
going to
not going to
connect with
connect
the
with the
database.
database.
We're just
We're
going
just
to
going to
create
create
some
some
K-means
Kenny
stub
stub
and
and
return
return
the
the
students
student
objects.
objects.
And then we're
And then
going
we're
to
going to
create
create
to
to
another
another
API
API
which
which
will
will
return
return
a
a
specific
specific
student
student
based
based
on
on an
ID.
ID.
Okay.
Okay.
Now,
Now,
in
in
that
that
scenario,
scenario,
we're going
we're going
to
to
write
write
two
two
exception
exception
or
or
handle two
handle two
exception, I would
exception, I
say.
would say.
One
One
is
is
that
that
if the
if the
one
one
resource is
resource is
not
not
present,
present,
one
one
student is
student
not
is not
present with the
present with
ID,
ID,
then we're
then
going
we're
to
going to
throw a
throw a
custom
custom
exception
exception
saying
saying
that
that
resource is not
resource is not
found.
found.
And we're
And we're
also going
also
to
going to
see
see
that
that
how we are
how we are
going to
going to
handle
handle
the
the
global
global
exception
exception
if that
if
is
that is
not
not
if any
if any
exception is
exception
not
is not
handled
handled
by the
by the
logic or by
logic or
the
by the
code
code
itself,
itself,
and how
and
we
how we
can
can
track
track
that
that
application and
application and
catch that
catch
and
that and
handle
handle
that.
them.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
first,
first,
let us
let us
create
create
a couple
a couple of
of exceptions.
exceptions
Uh,
uh,
uh, the formats
formats
first.
first.
So
So
exception
exception
format
format
means that
means that per
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 application we
application we
can
can
always
always
create
create
a
a
custom
custom
format
format
that
that
by that
by that
format
format
only
only
a
a particular
exception
exception I mean,
every
every
consumer
consumer
will get
will
the
get the
exceptions or the
exceptions or
error
the error
messages in
messages in
this
this
on a
on a
specific
specific
formats
formats
only.
only.
So
So
it
it
will
will
be
be
helpful
helpful
for the
for the
consumers
consumers
also,
also,
and we
and
can
we
put
can
it
put it
into our
into our
documentations as
documentations
well,
as
so
well,
that
so
the
that the
different
different
consumers
consumers
can
can
relate to
relate
it,
to it or
refer that
refer
and
that
try
and
to
try to
understand
understand
what are the
what are the
exceptions, what are
exceptions, what
the
are the
negative
negative
scenarios it is
scenarios it is
handling.
handling.
So
So
we're going
we're
to
going to
create
create
uh,
a
package
package
first.
first
Going to
and to
name
name
this
this
as
as
exception,
exception,
and
and
we're going
we're
to
going to
create
create
class
class
first.
first.
So
So
we are
we are
going to
going to
create
create
one
one
exception
exception
class,
class,
which is
which is
application
application
exception.
exception.
And
And
application
application
exception
exception
will
will
extend
extend
exception
exception
class.
class.
And
And
it will
it will
have a
have
couple
a
of
couple of
properties
properties
included.
included.
One
One
is
is
private
private
string,
string,
error
error,
code,
code,
and
and
private
private
string
string
message.
message.
Let
Let
me
me
have
have
that
that
with the
with the
data
data
and
and
or
or
argument
argument
constructor.
constructor.
Good. So
Good.
we
So we
have
have
a
a
custom
custom
exception
exception
which
which
we are
we are
calling
calling
as
as
application
application
exception.
exception.
This will
This
be
will be
can be
can be
used for
used for
generic
generic
exception.
exception.
And
And
now we are
now we
going
are
to
going to
create
create
a
a
format
format
by
by
which we
which we
can
can
send
send
the
the
responses,
responses,
exception
exception
responses
responses
to
to
the
the
calling
calling
client.
client.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
API
API
error
error
response.
response.
Okay.
Okay.
Added
Added
that
that
with
with
that
that
error,
data,
that
that
all
all
argument
argument
constructor,
constructor,
and we're
and
going
we're
to
going to
create a
create a
format.
format.
So
So
format is
format is
going to
going to
supposedly like
supposedly like
private
private
string
string
uh, GUID.
grid.
So
So
GUID is
GUID is
a
a
identification
identification
identifier
identifier
through which
for
we
which
can
we
with
can
that
with that
GUID we
GUID we
can
can
log the
log the
GUID
GUID into
into
a
log as
log
well,
as
and it
well,
will
and it will
send that
send that
particular
particular
GUID to the
GUID to the
client as
client
well,
as
so
well,
that
so that
if there's
if
a
there's a
support
support
activities
activities
going on
going
with
on
that
with
GUID,
that
we
GUID,
can
we can
search in
search
our
in our
logs
logs
and get
and
some
get some
information from
information
the
from
log
the log
databases.
databases.
So
So
GUID is
GUID is
important.
important.
Going to
When we
again
again
create
create
error
error
code,
code
entering
error
error
name,
name, mm,
path,
path,
and
and
timestamp.
timestamp.
Okay,
Okay.
so this
So
would
this
be
would
our
be our
generic
generic
response
response
format
format
for
for
all
all
of
of
our
our
exceptions,
exceptions,
may it
may it
be
be
custom
custom
exceptions, may
exceptions,
it
may
be
it be
handled or
handled or
unheld
unheld
exceptions.
exceptions.
Okay,
Mhm.
now
Now
we are
we
going
are
to
going to
write
write
uh,
uh, the
exception
exception
handler
handler
first.
first.
So
So
this is
this is
handler.
handler.
It
It
is
is
going to
going to
extend
extend
response
response
entity
entity response entity
exception
exception
handler,
handler,
and we're
and
going
we're
to
going to
annotate that
annotate that
with
with
rest
rest
controller
controller
advice
advice
annotation. So
annotation. So
this
this
annotation is
annotation is
responsible
responsible
to
to
for
for
capturing
capturing or
catching
catching
all
all of
the
the
exceptions
exceptions
into
into
by this
by this
handler
handler.
only. So
So
basically, we
basically,
are
we are
saying that
saying that
whatever the
whatever the
exceptions are
exceptions are
happening in
happening
the
into the
application
application,
should
it
pass
pass
through
through
this
this
handler
handler
first.
first.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
this is
this is
the
the
handler we
handler
have
we have
created, and
created,
we're
and
going
I'm going
to
to
create
create
another
another
annotation, which
annotation,
is
which is
order,
order,
and
and
we
we
can
can
set the
set the
precedence as
precedence
per
as per
mm,
mm,
order,
order,
God,
God,
and
and
vice
highest
precedence.
precedence.
So that
So that
handler will
handler
take
will
the
take the
highest
highest
precedence
precedence
over the
over
other
the other
exceptions.
exceptions.
Okay.
Okay.
And now
And
we
now
are
we
going
are
to
going to
create
create
handler
handler
for
for
all
all
of the
of the
exceptions that
exceptions that
may or
may
can
or can
happen
happen
in the
in the
application.
application.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
one of the
one of the
exceptions
exceptions
already
already
defined
defined
is that
is that
application
application
exception. So
exception. So
let's try
let's
to
try to
handle that.
handle that.
So we're
So
going
we're
to
going to
handle that
handle that
with
with
another
another
annotation which
annotation
is
which is
called
called
exception
exception
handler,
handler.
and we're
And
going
we're
to
going to
mention
mention
that
that
application
application
exception
exception
dot
dot
class,
class,
and
and we want to
handle
handle
its response
response
entity,
entity,
and
and
handle
handle
application
application
exception.
exception.
And
And
let's
let's
set a
set a
couple of
couple of
parameters.
parameters.
One is
One
the
is the
exception,
exception,
one
one
is
is
the
the
application
application
exception,
exception,
another
another
one
one
is
is
the
the
HTTP
HTTP
servlet
servlet
request,
request,
and
and
another one
another
is
one is the
HTTP
HTTP
servlet
servlet
response.
response.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So
we are
we are
capturing
capturing
the
the
exception
exception
itself
itself
and
and the
the servlet
servlet
request and the
request and the
response
response
API.
API.
Okay,
Okay,
and
and
we are
we are
going to
going to
throw
throw
from this
from
in
this
this
in this
method,
method,
if
if
that
that
custom
custom
exception
exception
occurs, then
occurs,
we're
then
going
I'm
to
going to
throw
throw
our
our
exception
exception
format.
format.
So
So
exception
exception
format
format
is
is for
API
API
error
error
response.
response.
So
So
let's
let's
create
create
that
that
response. So
response. So
first
first
parameter
parameter
is
is
GUID. So
GUID. So
let's
let's
create a
create a
GUID
GUID
first.
first.
So
So we
we
are
are going
going
to
to
generate
generate
a
a
random
random
GUID
GUID
to
to
string
string
GUID.
GUID. The second parameter is
second parameter is
error
error
code.
code. The error
Error
code
code
we
we
are
are
going to
going to
get
get
from the
from the
application
application
exception
exception
itself.
itself.
Error
Error
code.
code.
Third
Third
one
one
is
is
error
error
name,
name,
error
error message,
message, uh,
uh,
and
and
is
is the
the
path, the
path we
path we
can
can
get
get
from the
from the
request,
request,
requested
requested
URI,
URI,
and
and
we can next
next
parameter
parameter
is
is
the
the
timestamp. So
timestamp. The
timestamp we
timestamp we
can
can
populate
populate
locally
locally.
date
Date
9
time
dot
dot
dot string,
string,
and we
and we
can
can
easily
easily
return
return
the
with the
response
response
entity.
entity.
So
So
return
return
new
new
response
response
entity,
entity,
and
and we're going to
return
bring
response.
response.
And
And
for
for
this
this
case
case,
we
we
can
can
send
send
out
out
bad
that
request.
request.
Okay, so
So
this
this
handler
handler
will
will
handle
handle
all the
all the
custom
custom
exceptions.
exceptions.
Now
Now
let's
let's
write
write
a
a
handler
handler
for
for
all
all
the
the
unknown
unknown
exceptions.
exceptions.
So
So
handle
handle
unknown
unknown
exceptions,
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 exceptions.
and for
For
that,
that,
the
the
exception
exception
will
will
catch
catch
the
the
exception
exception
class,
class,
only
only
the
the
higher
higher
precedence
precedence
class, which
class,
is
which is
exception,
exception,
and
and
we're going
we're
to
going to
get
get
similar
similar
request
request
response on
response
the
on the
exception.
exception.
That
That
should
should
be
be
exception
exception
now,
now.
and the
And the
exception
exception
doesn't
doesn't
provide
provide
the
the
error
error
code or the
code or the
error
error
message.
message.
But
But
what we
what
can
we
do,
can do,
we
we
can
can
always
always
populate
populate
an
the
internal
internal
server
server
error
error
over
over
here.
here.
So
So
anytime
anytime
any
any
unknown
unknown
and
and
unhandled
unhandled
or
or
unknown
unknown
exception
exception
happens, we
happens,
can
we can
always
always
throw.
throw
It's
it's
embedded
embedded
through
through
uh,
uh,
error
error
code
code
as
as
500, which
500,
is the
which is the
server side
server-side
exception.
exception.
So
So
HTTP
HTTP
status
status,
status
status
dot
store,
internal
internal
server
server
error
error, what?
uh,
Uh,
yeah.
name.
And
And
we
we
can get
can get
the
the
message of
message of the
exception
exception
from the
from the
get
get message
message method,
method,
and the
and the
request
request
URI and
URI and
everything should
everything
be
should be
same. And
same. And
from here
from here
also we
also we
should
should
send
send
the
the
internal
internal.
error. Okay,
Okay,
so we are
so we are
done
done
with
with
writing
writing
handlers
handlers
for
for
the
the
exception.
exception.
Let's see
Let's see
where
where
it
it
is
is
breaking.
breaking.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So
what
what
we're
we're mm,
okay, so it's
so it's
asking for
asking
the
for the
type.
type.
Let's
Let's
populate
populate
that.
that.
Anyway,
Anyway, we're going,
we are
we are
sending
sending
the
the
type of
type of
API
API
error
error
response
response
only.
only.
So
So
as of
as
now,
of
we
now,
have
we have
written
written
two
two
handlers
handlers
for
for
one for
one
the
for the
custom
custom
exception,
exception,
which
which
is an
is an
application
application
exception,
exception,
and another
and
for
another
the
for the
unknown
unknown
exception,
exception,
which is
which
not
is not
handled
handled
by the
by the
application or
application
your
or
code.
your code.
Okay.
Okay.
Now
Now
let's write
let's write
some
some
APIs
APIs
first.
first.
First, I will
First, I will
create a
create a
package
package
which is called
called
controller,
controller,
and
and
going to
going to
create a
create a
service
service
package
package
as
as
well.
well. So, created the
package. To the
to the
package. Service.
service.
Let's
Let's
create the
create the
package
package
service
service
first.
first.
And
And
let's
let's
create the
create a
service
service
class
class
first,
first,
which
which
will
will
actually
actually
give
give
us
us
the
the
students
students
objects.
objects.
So
So
class
class
student
student
service,
service.
and
And
here
here
we
we
should
should
be
be
getting
getting
that
that at
service
service
annotation,
annotation,
and
and
that
that
service
service
is
is
going to
going to
give
give
us
us
two
two
separate
separate
services
services
for
for
getting all
getting
the
all the
students
students
and
and
getting the
getting the
students by
students by
IP.
IP.
So
So
let's
let's
create those
create
two
those two
services
services
first.
first.
So
So
first
first
will
will
return
return
a list of
list of
student.
student.
So
So
student,
student
we
we
need to
need to
create,
create
and
and
we're getting the service
service
only,
only.
and
And
we're
we're
going
going
to
to
enter
enter
the
the
data
data
and
and allow them
stuff.
stuff.
And let's
Let's
supposedly
supposedly
it
it
holds
holds
properties
properties
like
like
uh,
uh
private
private
string,
string,
so
so
long
long
ID,
ID,
private string
string
name,
name, that
address.
is
Supposedly
with
these three
these three
values it
values it
holds,
holds.
and
And
we can
then
import
for
it, the
the
student
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 list,
list
student,
student
and
and
get
get
all
all student
students, and it
and it
will
will
return the
return the
students.
students.
So
So
first
first
let's
let's
create the
create a
stub
stub
for the
for the
student.
student.
So
So
let's create
let's
a
create a
map
map
for of
for of
students.
students.
So
So
map
map
of
of
log will be
log will be
key,
key
and
and
type will
that
be
will be
student.
students.
Student,
Student, student,
student,
student,
and
and
we
we
can
can
create
create new
hash map.
attachment.
Can
Can
create
create,
can
can
create
create
couple of
couple of
students over
students over
here.
here.
New
New
student.
student.
Let's
Let's
uh,
uh,
give the
give the
grid
grid
ID
ID
as
as
one
one
other.
other.
Name
Name
should be
should be
John,
John,
and
and
address
address
should
should
be
be
supposedly
supposedly
New
New
York.
York.
Create
Get
couple of
couple of
more
more
students.
students. Millie
Millie lives
lives
in
in
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Another
Another
one,
one,
Matthew
Matthew lived
lives in
in
Boston,
Boston,
supposedly,
supposedly,
and
and
we
we
can
can
directly
directly
send
send
out
out
his
his list
list from
from
here.
here.
Okay, so
So,
list
list
of
of
student
student
array
array
list
list
of
of
student
students,
as
list
students
students
dot
dot
values,
values,
and we
and we
can
can
return
return,
we
we
can
can
return
return
st.
ST.
Okay.
Okay.
Similarly,
Similarly,
we can
we
write
can write
another
another service
service class which
which
will
will
return
return
a
a
singular
singular
student
student
gets
gets
student
student
by
by
ID.
ID.
So
So
you can
you can
get
get
a
a
student
student
by from the
from the
student
student
map
map
itself,
itself,
but
but
get ID
ID
only.
only.
ID will
ID
be
will be
passed
passed
over
over
here as
here
a
as a
long
long
ID, and
ID, and
if
if
is
is
null,
null, that
if
means
the
if the
that particular
particular
student is
student
not
is not
present,
present,
then
then
we
we
can
can
throw
throw
our
our
custom
custom
exception
exception
throw
throw
new
new
application
application
exception
exception
with
with
error
error
code
code
404,
404
and
and
the
the
message
message
student
student
not
not
found.
found.
The
The
method
method
signature,
signature,
and it
and it
will
will
return
return
the
the
student
student
last.
last.
Okay, so
Okay,
we
so
are
we are done
done with the
with the
service
service.
requests.
Let's
Quickly
quickly
create a
create
couple of controller.
controller.
An API is
API
within the
in the
controller.
controller.
Let's
Let's
create a
create a
separate
separate
package.
package
Controller.
controller.
I'm going
I'm
to
going to
name
name
that as
that as
student
student
controller.
controller.
At
At
rest
rest
controller.
controller.
At
At
request
request
mapping.
mapping.
Student.
Student.
And
And
let's write
let's
the
write the
APIs
APIs
now.
now.
So
So
API,
API, our
will
API will
return
return
our
our
first
first
API,
API,
which
which
will
will
return all
return
the
all the
students, will
students, will
return
return the
all
all
students. So
students. So
public
public
response
response
entity
entity
of
of
list
list
of
of
student
students.
get
Get
all.
all.
Let's
Let's
import
import
student,
students.
import list
List
also,
also
another
another
with
with
get
get
mapping.
mapping.
Uh,
Uh,
get
get mapping.
nothing,
Nothing,
and we
and we
can
can
auto
auto
add a
add the
student
student
service.
service.
and we
and we
can
can directly
call
call
the
the
servers.
servers
Get
with
all
all
students.
students.
We
We
can
can
return
return
response
response
entity.
entity,
New
new
students.
students,
Start. Okay. Okay.
okay.
And
And
similarly,
similarly,
we
we
can
can
create
create
another
another
API
API
which
which
will
will
give
give
us
us
the
the
specific
specific
student
student
by
by
ID,
ID,
and it
and it
will
will
only
only
return the
return the
student
student
object
object
only,
only,
and it
and it
will
will
pass a
pass a
parameter
parameter
as
as
ID.
ID,
Response
response
entity
entity,
get
the
students by
students by
ID.
ID.
Let's
Let's
pass the
pass the
ID.
ID. Of
Course, it
course,
will
it will
throw
show
the
the
throws
throws the
application
application
exception.
exception.
So
So
we
we
have
have
our
our
exception.
exception.
Let's
Let's
try to
try to
run the
run the
application.
application.
The
The
application is
application is
started.
started.
Now, if
Now, if
we
we
just try
just
to
try to
get the
get the
students,
students,
uh,
uh,
was
was
this
this
one?
one.
It will
It will
give us
give us
all
all
the
those
students.
students.
If we
If
try
we
to
try
get
to
the
get the
first
first
student,
student,
it
it
is
is
giving me
given
one
one and
else
the
if
three
if student
students
should
should
be
be
present
present
and
and
the
to the
student
student
service.
service.
Okay, so
So
we
we
made a missing
missing
something
something
over
over
here.
here.
Let's
Let's
call
call
the
the
student
student
once
once
again.
again. Okay, we check out the path
Variable.
variable.
That's
That's
why
why
it's
it's
not
not
passing the
passing the
ID.
ID.
Let's
Let's
rerun
rerun
it.
it.
Now
Now,
let's
let's
again
again
try to
try to
get all
get
the
all the
students.
students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
now we are
now we are
getting
getting
individual
individual
students
students
by
by
ID.
ID.
Students
Students
everything.
everything.
Now if
Now, if
we
we
just try
just
to
try to
access
access
this
the
post
first
student,
student,
it will
it will
give
give
you
you,
it will
it will
throw
throw
the
the
application
application
exception,
exception,
and it
and it
will
will
fetch it
fetch,
will
it will
send out
send
the
out the
responses
responses
of the
of the
custom
custom
exception, which
exception, which
is
is
application
application
exception.
exception.
Whether
Whether
GUID is
GUID is
there,
there,
the
the
error
error
code is
code is
404,
404,
and the
and the
message is
message
to
is
them
to them
not
not
found
found where
from
from
you are
you are
throwing from
throwing
the
from the
student
student
service
service
itself.
itself.
So this
So
is
this is
how
how
you
you
can
can
handle
handle
exceptions,
exceptions,
custom
custom
exception. You
exception.
can
You
throw
can
your
throw your
own
own
exceptions.
exceptions.
Now
Now
let's
let's
see
see
if
if
any
any
particular
particular
method
method
is
is
sending
sending
an
an
exception which
exception
is
which is
not
not
handled
handled
by
by
any
any
catch
catch
or your
or your
code
code
itself.
itself.
Suppose
Suppose
that
that
we can
we can
induce an
induce an
exception
exception
just
just
like
like
something like
something like
divisible by
divisible by
zero
zero
exception.
exception.
So
So
like
like
this
this
only.
only.
Now, if we
try
try to
to
get
get
all the
all the
students, it
students, it
should
should
show an
show an
exception.
exception.
And
And
let's
let's
see
see
if
if
the
the
handler
handler
is
is
able
able
to
to
handle the
handle the
global
global
exception
exception
or
or
not.
not.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
let's try
let's
to
try to
for the
for the
student.
student.
If you, as you
As you
can
can
see
see
that
that
automatically
automatically
Spring is
Spring is
handling
handling
that
that
particular
particular
exception
exception
which
which
we
we
haven't
haven't
handled
handled
or
or
catch,
catch,
but
but
the
the
control
control
advice
advice
catch
catch
that
that
particular
particular
exception
exception
and
and
it converted that
converted that
exception
exception
into
into
the
the
specific
specific
our
our
error
error
response,
response.
and
And
it is
it is
also
also
already
already
showing.
showing,
So it
it
also
also
returns
returns
what
what
kind of
kind of
exception
exception
is
is
if we
if you
say
say
that
that
it
it
is
is
divisible
divisible
by
by
zero
zero
exception.
exception.
So
So
this is the
this is the
way
way
we
we
can
can
create our
create
own
our own
exceptions,
exceptions,
and
and
we
we
can
can
uh,
uh,
show
show
our
our
custom
custom
exceptions as
exceptions
well,
as well,
and
and
we
we
can
can
handle the
handle the
global
global
acceptance
acceptance
as well
as well
from a
from a
single
single
handler
handler
class.
class.
So
So
this is
this is
it.
it.
If
If
you
you
like this
like this
video,
video,
please
please
do
do
give
give
thumbs up,
thumbs up,
subscribe to my
subscribe to my
channel,
channel,
and
and
let me know
let
into
me
the
know into the
comments what
comments what
improvements I
improvements I
can
can
make,
make,
what
what
things
things
I
I
can
can
include in
include
our
in our
next
next
videos.
videos.
Till
Till
then,
then,
ciao.
ciao.